Well, hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Jake here with you. Going to be starting working on the lighting for the Reliant 1/1000 scale Reliant, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to do this on camera because it probably would have bored everybody. But what I've done is I've gone through and I've used some micro uh, LED strip tape double density here, and it lights up real nice and bright. I did that in 3 or 4 spots around the edges of the window so it'll shine through real nice. And then, so I went on ahead and got those in and mounted in, and here in a second I'll show you what it looks like lit up. So right now what I'm doing is I'm going to take you through and show you how to wire in the nav lights. So what I'm going to be using is these long leg LEDs that have a little point on the top. I don't know if you can catch that or not. I don't know if it'll get it. I don't think it's going to, but it's got that little nub on top to where when you put it in, you drill your hole and it sits flush down in the hole, and that way it's not sticking up. That way it'll stay in scale. So I've got everything ready to go. So what I'll do is I'll get the soldering iron out and show you how to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the positive lead first, which is the long leg. So I'm going to bend that out just enough to where I can get it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it down just a little bit to get some of the length off, because you're going to be putting a resistor on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this around. I'm going to use my helping hands here. Alright, take my soldering iron, dab a little solder on there until I know it's catching, and there you go. That's it for that part of it. And now you have your resistor on your LED. So now what I'll do is I'll take my positive, which I'm using magnet wire here, which is 26 gauge. It works well. I'm using red and green. Red for my positive, green for the negative. And what I'm doing is I've already got it sanded off and ready to go. And so what I'll do is just wrap around the resistor a little bit. Put it in the helping hands here. You don't need a whole lot of solder. When you see that puff of smoke, it's pretty well soldered on there, but I put on it quite a bit just to make sure it's held. Clean it off here pretty good. Alright, that's done. That's on there now. It ain't going to go nowhere now. So what I'll do is I'll do my negative, which will be the green wire. And I'll wrap this around a couple of times to get it to where I know it'll hold. Alright, and now before I put a piece of shrink tubing on there to keep it from shorting out, I'm going to test it. So I'll get my little battery here, and 9-volt battery works real well, and I just test and you can see we have power. So now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put it on my heat shrinking tube. And when you put heat shrinking tube on, you only need it on one side just to keep it from shorting out. So you do that, and then you take your lighter, quickly run it across there just enough to see it shrink, and there you go. So now what I'll do is I'll take my my ship here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to take and slowly bend this to a 90-degree. And put this down in the hole that I've got. I'm going to take my CA glue. Put a nice little put my lid back on it, and then what I'll do is I'll take my Instaset here, and it'll take care of it'll dry it pretty quick. I always blow on it to get it drying a little faster. Sometimes it doesn't set very fast. Alright, that's pretty well set. So now it'll show through the whole, it'll show through the navigational hole where it goes through pretty well. I've already tested out the green. So now what I got to do is do the white. Get a white one out here. Get my resistor out. And we'll do the same thing. Wrap this around. Cut this off just a little bit. Alright, that's on there. Now what I'll do is I'll get a length of magnet wire here, about 6 to 8 inches worth. That's all you really need, because you're going to be combining them. And I'll show you the process of what you can do. You take your lighter and just barely do the end until you see it catch fire. What that's doing is that's burning the enamel off. Burning the enamel off the end of the wire, so that way you can solder it. And then what I do is I take my Dremel and clean the edges, get that black off there, so I make sure I have a good clean end to solder. Alright, now I'll get my helping hands back over here and we'll do the same thing. I'll get my red wire, which is for my positive. Use this end, it's got a little bit longer length. Wrap it around. Just remember to take it slow. Tend my Alright, clean this off. Now I'll flip it around and do the same thing with the green, or the green wire, the negative. Just wrap it around. Alright. Now what I'll do is I'll do the same thing here. Is I'll put my battery on there and test it out. Hopefully we have power. And we have power. So now we can put our shrink tubing on there. And I'm using the 1/1000th scale tenna controls board to power the Reliant with this, which I'll be mounting in the ship. Then I'll take my lighter. Alright, let that cool for just a second. And then I'll do the same thing. As I'll take this and bend it to a 90-degree. First of all, you need to do is take your pin vise, make sure all your holes are drilled out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pin vise and drill out my hole just a little bit. Something like this you don't really need to put a Dremel tool on. So what I'll do now is I'll put this down in the hole. Then I'll take my CA glue. Put it there, and then I'll a couple of squirts of that, let it dry, and that should be that. So what I'm going to do now, and also what I've done, is I've put a couple of LEDs on the LED light strips to, when it's together, these will be facing down so it'll shine through those holes on the bottom. So what I'm going to do now is the board. Since that's since that's done, you have your basic board. You have your red and your black for power, your positive and negative. If I can grab them here, you have your red and black for negative, your positive for your power, and then you have your green for strobes and yellows for your greens for navigation and your yellow for strobes. So it's pretty self-explanatory. And what I'll do is I'll be mounting the board somewhere right around in that area, because there's a lot of room that you can. There's going to be a lot of room in the ship here where it's going in between. So what I'll do is I'll mount it right there. What I'll probably end up doing is getting a hot glue gun I'll get my hot glue gun set up here. Hang on. This thing takes a few minutes to get together. So what I'm going to do is look over, make sure that you, when you're using the tenna controls board, you follow the, it's pretty self-explanatory. Here's the wiring page right here. It kind of gives you pretty self-explanatory. The green for the navs, yellow for the strobes, and you have your black for the battery, and it also comes with this board wiring kit comes with wires, LEDs, the battery clip, and then a power switch you can mount on your base. So that's what you want to do, is just kind of go through here and make sure everything's, you know, you're following these instructions, or else you can have problems down the road when you go to mount your board, or when you close it up. Also, we have 4 little ones that go, one here on the top, actually, I think. Yeah, nav, and that's some slow flashing nav lights on the top. So probably what I'll do before I close this up is order some 0805 SMDs from Jerry over at HDA Modelworks, so I have enough room to close everything up, because there's 2 on each corner and then 2 in the middle that will flash on top. So check to see if this board is not quite ready yet. So what I'll do now is I'll kind of go through off camera and get these all situated, get it everything caught up and in place, and I'll have the board mounted in place. And next time you see me, I'll do a quick update video on, you know, on how all the navs and strobes light and everything else like that. I've got to go down through here on the bottom and cut out a little section to where I have my forward floodlights for the bottom of the planetary sensor dome. I'll have that cut in and ready to go. So until then, I'll do this stuff off camera, and have a good night, everyone. We'll see you next day or two with an update. Have a good one.